Hey everybody, so I've just been thinking, I think one of the most confusing parts this semester was all of that Django stuff. There was a lot all at once and easy to get lost in, and I was thinking as a parting gift at the end of the semester here, I'd try to clarify some stuff a little bit. So I just set up a GitHub repository here on my account. You should have a link to at least where you can get back to my repositories and find this PySimple web one that I just threw up here. And after making this video, I'll put some more instructions here. But what I did here is I created a web app without a framework. So I have it running on a local test server, and then we'll walk through that. So if I just kind of look at this, I created this thing, PySimple web is what I was calling it. So some of this is in the HTML file, some of this is being echoed back from the Python script, and then there's a form. I'll put out some data and submit that, and you can see here's that data processed and showing in another page and kind of what's being passed in. Just the bare bones, no framework here. The fancy tools are very powerful. They've been building up for a long time. Sometimes with Django, you'll hear the word bloated used because it's generalized. It has every possible thing people could need, which definitely overwhelmed us this semester. So let's take a look at the bare minimum to do this. Oh, and another thing, I guess I'll point at stuff in the Atom text editor. Remember that tutorial the link didn't work for, the Docker stuff? So the Atom text editor that I use here, well, it's an extendable text editor, so it's like an IDE that is coded in HTML and JavaScript. They wrote it all in HTML and JavaScript, put it into Docker, and then Docker loaded this onto my computer to use. So that's kind of what Docker does. That one we couldn't get to, so you'll want to look into that when you get more time. So you can see there's not much here, even with white space and the guard in place. 33 lines, an HTML template to read some stuff in, and another one with 22 lines, and a great big old long comment here on how to on setting it up. And then it's all Python. There's not lots and lots of stuff to get lost in from a framework that somebody else made. So I wanted to leave you with a parting gift of the core idea here. So maybe when there's time, you can jump over to my GitHub and look at this basic idea. And then you just, CGI stands for Common Gateway Interface. That's the standard of how a server and client communicate with each other. So there's only one import, which is in the default Python library. That's just some HTML code. And then the HTML code gets read in. So what's going on here? As far as Python is, we're going to take in some file name, which for the stripped down example, I just made one HTML page, which is actually a template. And then we just read that file. And one line at a time, I made up some special symbol. I just made up some tag. Here it is. So I just made up some tag to put in the template. So as I read this in, which is also stored on the server, I'm going to parse through each line. And if I see that tag, then we'll figure out the indexes of where it starts and stops, cut out that content, and replace it with something from a Python dictionary, with a key from a Python dictionary, whichever one's mentioned there. Hopefully that sounds familiar from the template stuff we looked at in Django. That's the most stripped down version, and then we print out that that line with our Python data in it instead of the original special characters we threw in there. And if that special character is not there, we just print the line that was there, which in this case would be an HTML line. And what's really going on here is it's running as a CGI script. So I added this to an Apache server. So configuration on an Apache server, which is a Linux server. So that's why it looks like it's starting with a shebang. But as I was testing, I used a virtual server here. So I used Jamp virtual server. It's a really nice virtual server. You can just search for it. It's very, very popular. The X is cross-platform. Apache, MySQL, PHP, and Perl. It also comes with Tomcat, so you have a server configured to run Java or JSP pages as well to kind of do the same thing that I did here. So you can just search for that and look into that. Get this little control. There's an Apache server. And if you go in the config file, hit the config button and open this httpd config file, which can also be found where it's installed, Jamp, and then some Apache stuff and config, is this file right here. So if I open that with Atom, which I think is in the background here, a whole bunch of configuration things, mostly commented out, but I put stuff all the way at the bottom, so I'll just control end, jump down to the end. Need to add these two lines. Add handler, so that's a Linux command we're passing to the Apache server. And the handler we want to add is CGI script, and then we're going to send in the parameter that we want the .py extension to run as a script on the server. And that will redirect our standard output to where the server's going. In other words, that makes the the regular Python print statement, go across the internet to the client the server's currently talking to. So then we just send the HTML code, oops, this one. So we read it in, and then we just write this as a string on the print command, and the CGI script sends that print to the client, the common gateway interface. Then we need this line. It's kind of a big one. So script interpreter source is our Linux command that we pass in. And then the parameter we want to set for that command is registry-strict. So you just add those two lines to your httpd.config file, .conf file, and that'll configure your Apache server, which this is just a test one. And then you just write your Python script, put a shebang in it. So normally, when it's not on a virtual server running on a Windows machine, your shebang is going to probably look like comment as in sh, and then bang is where that name comes from. And then Python will be installed in /bin/Python, maybe 3.10, or whatever your Python installation is. On a Linux machine, it'll be in /bin. So just put that as your shebang in the very, very top line. But on a virtual server, I have to point to my Windows one. And then every line has to start with this. So this is the MIME type. You may have seen this with CSS files, text/CSS data. But here our MIME type is text/HTML. And that way when the client receives it, it knows what to do with it. So that goes at the top of everything going back. Then you just write Python code. So a dictionary of Python code will open up a file, which is just this test page. You can look through the GitHub where this is at and see that. We'll go through it. If we see this special character that I just completely made up here, then we'll take out that special character and replace it with some stuff from our Python dictionary. And that's how we get the templates going. And I also put a form here, and the form calls this other process.py script. And again, get your shebang, which will probably point to something Linux instead of the virtual server. Although Jamp is a great thing to have for test and learning purposes. Virtual machines are nice. If we break them, we can just delete them and put another one in. We print, so it's a CGI script. So we're sending this string from the server to the client, then the client knows that it's receiving HTML content in Unicode form. And then this library is part of the Python installation, so just import the CGI, and there's an object in that CGI library called field storage. So just create a new instance of that object and give it some sort of reference. I printed it out here so we can see what the whole thing looks like. So there's a couple parameters not using on this, and then we have some small storage, which has the name attribute from the HTML file. Name on this input is stuff, or what is up here in the query string in the URL, as well as the data. And then we can just access that as an index. So that form data object, which is, that's what I called the field storage object here. It's sort of like a dictionary, but we really just want the dot value. Obviously there's a dot key and some other parts there, but dot value is the one we want. Throw that in some strings with some HTML tags and print it back to the client. So that's the stripped down version. I think people got lost in the tools. I'll stick that on GitHub. So I'll go over here one more time. As soon as I finish this video and send this out to you, I'll write some details instructions here so you can refer to this and kind of see what all these files are doing. So just the bare minimum to use HTML as an interface for a Python application. I thought that would be useful and hopefully a parting gift after getting lost in all that Django stuff this semester. We're coming on the end of the semester, so everybody have a great semester, or a great break between the semesters. You all have definitely earned a well-deserved break for a couple weeks after this course. And if you have any questions, let me know. Keep my contact information around. I teach more than just the Python course, and that if you have any questions, send them my way, is an open offer. So feel free to send me an email anytime you have questions, and I'm always happy to help if I'm able to, or if I'm not able to, help you figure out where we can find that answer. So feel free to send me questions even after the semester ends. Hopefully this will make some of that a little bit clearer, and then so starting with that basic part builds up for years and years and years, and then you end up with a big, huge, complicated framework like Django, which a couple of weeks is way too short of amount of time to learn Django in, as you all are well aware. So thought I'd leave that as a parting gift. You all have a great break. I don't have any plans for the semester, so I might send out some more videos about Python and things that I think will be useful, but there's a thunderstorm rolling through, so I better wrap this up before my power cuts out. So y'all have a great break.